In the world of crime, the perfect alibi is the holy grail, a single, unshakable proof that a suspect could not have committed the crime because they were somewhere else entirely. It is the ultimate defense, a wall of logic that can stop an investigation dead in its tracks. In 1900, at the height of New York's Gilded Age, a cunning and ambitious lawyer named Albert T. Patrick believed he had constructed just that, a perfect, impenetrable alibi. When his elderly multimillionaire client was found dead under suspicious circumstances, all eyes turned to Patrick, the man who stood to inherit a fortune. But the police were faced with an impossible problem. Witnesses could swear that on the night of the murder, Albert Patrick never left his apartment. They had spoken to him, they had heard him, he was, by all accounts, in two places at once. This is the story of a crime so audacious it captivated a nation. A story of a forged will, a suspicious bank teller, and a shocking murder plot that was nearly successful. It is the story of a killer who almost got away with it, thanks to one of the most ingenious alibis ever devised. Our story begins with one of the most eccentric and wealthy men in America, William Marsh Rice. Born in Massachusetts, Rice had made his immense fortune in the rough and tumble world of Texas real estate, railroads, and cotton trading. During the mid-1800s, by the turn of the century, he was worth an estimated $5 million, the equivalent of over $180 million today. He was, by any measure, a titan of industry. But his personal life was anything but lavish. Now in his 80s, Rice lived as a near recluse in a modest apartment at the Berkshire Arms in New York City. He was a widower. He ate cheap meals, wore old clothes, and was cared for by his valet and butler, a man named Charles Jones. Despite his Spartan lifestyle, William Rice had a grand vision for his legacy. He had no interest in leaving his vast fortune to distant relatives. Instead, he had drafted a will with a singular, noble purpose. Upon his death, his entire estate would be used to found a world-class educational institution in Houston, Texas, a place for advancement of letters, science, and art. This institution would one day become the prestigious Rice University. His life's work was destined for philanthropy. But in his final years, a new figure entered Rice's small, isolated world, a 14-year-old lawyer from Texas named Albert T. Patrick. Patrick was ambitious, charming, and cunning. He had moved to New York to make his fortune and saw the elderly, isolated millionaire as a golden ticket. He slowly integrated himself with Rice, becoming his new legal counsel and gaining control over his affairs. As Rice's health began to fail, Albert Patrick saw his chance to redirect the old man's legacy not towards the university but directly into his own pockets. On the morning of September 24, 1900, news broke that William Marsh Rice had died in his apartment peacefully at the age of 84. His valet, Charles Jones, reported that his employer had passed away in his sleep from natural causes. Given Rice's advanced age, no one initially suspected a thing. His body was quickly prepared for cremation. The very next day, Albert T. Patrick put his plan into motion. He presented a check to a local bank for an enormous sum of $25,000, but he was just beginning. He also produced a new, shocking will. This new will, dated just a few months prior, completely contradicted Rice's lifelong plans. It left the vast majority of his multi-million-dollar estate not to the planned university in Houston, but to his trusted lawyer, Albert T. Patrick. It was a bold, audacious move, but it was here that Patrick's meticulous plan hit its first tiny snag. A bank teller at the Swenson Bank, a man named Jeff Duff, was presented with another of Patrick's checks, this one for $135,000. Also signed by the supposedly deceased Rice. Duff examined the signature. It looked correct, but there was one small problem. The check was made payable to Albert T. Patrick. The first name was misspelled. It was a minor error, but for the diligent bank teller, it was enough. Duff knew that a meticulous man like William Rice was unlikely to misspell the name of the man to whom he was leaving his entire fortune. The teller refused to cash the check and alerted the authorities. The single cautious act by an observant bank teller unraveled the entire conspiracy. The trustees of Rice's original will were notified, and they immediately suspected foul play. They hired detectives who blocked the cremation of Rice's body just in the nick of time. An autopsy was performed, and the results were shocking. The 84-year-old had not died of old age. His lungs were filled with the fumes of chloroform. William Marsh Rice had been murdered. With the discovery of the forged will and the proof of murder, Albert T. Patrick and the valet, Charles Jones, were immediately arrested. The motive was clear. Patrick had forged the will and murdered Rice to steal his fortune, but Patrick just smiled. He had an ace up his sleeves, his perfect, unshakable alibi. On the night of the murder, September 23rd, Patrick had been in his apartment at the Gramercy Park Hotel, miles away from Rice's residence. And he had proof. Several people had interacted with him. A hotel worker had brought him a late meal. Another had seen him through the doorway. A business associate had even called him on the telephone, and Patrick had answered. Multiple witnesses could place him in his apartment, making it impossible for him to have been at the scene of the crime. The police were stumped. How could he have been in two places at once? The key, they knew, was the valet. For days, detectives relentlessly interrogated Charles Jones. Jones, terrified and seeing the conspiracy collapsing, finally broke down and confessed everything, revealing the incredible secret to Patrick's perfect alibi. On the night of the murder, Patrick had not been in his apartment at all. Instead, he'd hired a man, a former hotel worker named Short, to spend the night there and impersonate him. Short was instructed to practice Patrick's voice, to answer the phone if it rang, and to respond to anyone who came to the door, while the accomplice played the part of a sick and bedridden Albert Patrick. The real Patrick had slipped out and gone to the Berkshire Arms to commit the murder with Jones. The confession was a breakthrough the police needed. Jones admitted that he was the one who held a chloroform-soaked sponge over the elderly millionaire's face, all under the direction of Albert Patrick. Patrick's perfect alibi was shattered. The trial of Albert T. Patrick in 1902 was a media sensation, dubbed a trial of the century by the press. The prosecution's star witness was the valet, Charles Jones, who laid out the entire devious plan for the jury. The defense, led by Patrick himself, fought back, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged will, the suspicious checks, and the valet's detailed confession sealed his fate. Albert T. Patrick was found guilty of murder and sentenced to die in the electric chair at Sing Sing prison. But the story doesn't end there. Patrick, a master manipulator, even from death row, never gave up. He launched a massive legal and public relations campaign, writing articles and letters proclaiming his innocence. And after years of appeals, with some public opinion shifting, the governor of the New York commuted his death sentence to life in prison. Then, in 1912, in a shocking move, he was granted a full pardon. He walked out of prison a free man. Patrick, however, did not get the money. The courts invalidated the forged will and upheld William Marsh Rice's original vision. The full massive fortune was secured and sent to the trustees in Houston. And so, the true legacy of this story belongs not to the killer, but to his victim. In 1912, the same year Patrick was pardoned, the Rice Institute for the Advancement of Letters, Science, and Art opened its doors. Today, it is known as Rice University, one of the most prestigious and respected universities in the United States, a testament to the vision of a man whose legacy was almost stolen. Albert Patrick's perfect crime failed. and in its place, a lasting monument to education and philanthropy was built, all because a bank teller noticed a single misspelled name.